I'm a simple college student living alone in an apartment. I was very enthusiastic about the release of Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver here in the States. I have purposely locked myself out of all media in the internet aside for school purposes. That means no 4chan, no Bulbapedia, nothing. As I was busy with the school year and being poor at the time, I wasn't able to buy Soul Silver at its launch date. After my school year ended, I ordered Soul Silver on Amazon. It would take a week to arrive, however. I decided that during the time I would replay my Crystal version on my Game Boy Color. However, I realized that long ago my mom threw it out because I told her the save went dead and I was very upset about it then. She also threw away my Silver version, so all I have is my Game Boy Color. As such, I set out to GameStop and bought a used Silver version, as it's the only Pokemon game left they have for the Game Boy Color. $10, fairly cheap. I went home and started up for a nostalgia trip. However, that's when things started getting bizarre, and most likely the reason why you read this. The Game Freak logo started as normal, but it just froze there. I thought the card was just errored or something, so I turned it off and on. Same thing happened. I tried pressing A and start over and over in all the buttons. Eventually the logo vanished, and there was a black screen for about 5 seconds. Suddenly, rather than going to the usual menu screen, I was already in the game of a previous save file, which was odd as I was expecting all these cards to have been wiped by the poor battery. Either way, I wasn't complaining, as I would have just chosen the continue option to see what the previous guy did anyways. First off, I checked his trainer information. His name was just ... He didn't have much originality. I checked his profile and apparently he had 999 hours and 99 minutes put into the game, with all 16 badges, 999,999 Pokédollars, and all 251 Pokemon on the Pokedex. Seeing as he had apparently Mew and Celebi logged also, I'm guessing he either used the Game Genie or was a really hardcore Pokemon player back then. I checked his Pokemon to see what a badass team he had. To my surprise, I saw 5 unknowns and a 6 Pokemon named Hurry. I'm thinking this must have been some cruel joke by the person who last played the game, but I decided to check the profiles of those Pokemon anyway. As expected, they are different letters of unknown, all level 5. I was a bit shaky with my unknown alphabet at the time, but I identified the word spelled out to be L-E-A-V-E. Leave. As for the 6th Pokemon, it turned out to be a Cyndaquil. Mind you, this was before they had individual Pokemon icons. The Cyndaquil looked normal, but it was only level 5 with only 1 HP left and 2 attacks. Leer and Flash. I don't know why they named him Hurry, but at the same time, I just disregarded it. The most eerie thing was that, despite my volume being maxed, none of the Pokemon said their usual cries. Just pure silence. Having enough of the team, I closed it. I was parked at what appears to be a room inside Bellsprout Tower. For some reason, there were no NPCs around. Even more eerie was that pillar in the middle that didn't move at all, as if it was just leaning on its side. There was no music at all. There was no exit nor ladder, or at least I thought there wasn't. I walked around for a few minutes, but can't seem to find a way out. This was certainly not a room I've seen in Bellsprout Tower before. I tried checking my items for an escape rope, but the bag was completely empty. There wasn't any wild Pokemon either. Finally, as I managed to find a ladder, which turned out to be behind the pillar, the screen turned black and the music finally started playing. I had a sudden chill, as I realized the melody I heard to be the theme you hear when you listen to the radio at the Alph Ruins, where the Unknown are at. I immediately realized that it wasn't a loading transition, but rather I was in a dark room and would need flash. Before I took care of that though, I immediately checked my Pokegear to change the radio to something more pleasant. But it turns out that there was no radio card, or even a phone or time cards. There was only a map card in which Gold, ... from earlier, and I will call him Gold from now on, was just walking in the midst of black. I recall that Cyndaquil has Flash, so I turned off my Pokegear and made Cyndaquil use Flash. I didn't see any message saying, "Hurry, use Flash," or anything like that. The room just became lit like that, and I soon regretted it. The room was a chilling blood red, with a linear gray path heading south. The ladder I used to go up and down was not there at all. I had no choice but to head south. The screen got darker and darker every 20 steps I made until finally I made it to the end, at which appears to be a sign. I read the sign, which said,
"Turn back now."
Suddenly I was asked to answer yes, no, but there was no question asked. I chose yes as I did not know what it was asking. And the screen went black again, making a ladder climb sound. The unknown radio music stopped, and in a few seconds was replaced with the not-so-creepy Poke Flute radio music. I was in another dark room, but I held my breath and used flash again. Suddenly it said, "Hurry, has fainted," which was odd since I recall there was no status conditions like poison on him, and I clearly wasn't in a battle. I checked my Pokemon quickly, and suddenly he's no longer in my party. In fact, after a bit of investigating, none of my Pokemon are there, but all replaced with level 10 unknown. I did the same thing as before and spelled out the unknown. My then team of unknowns spelled H-E-D-I-E-D. He died. Either way, after that creepy change, the room was lit to reveal myself in a very small room that only appeared to be 4 squares big. The walls of that room were gray bricks, as if something that was hollowed out. Outside that room appeared to be a bunch of graves similar to the ones in Pokemon Red and Blue. I've walked around that room and pressed A, but nothing happened. I've already concluded that this was clearly a hack game and some sadistic fuck sold it to GameStop. However, my curiosity kept me going. I checked the trainer profile of Gold again, only to find out that the sprite of Gold was missing his arms. He also seemed to appear less smug, but rather seems more sad and empty in a way that I don't know how to describe. For some reason, it also said that he had 24 badges, which was clearly impossible. After a few minutes of aimless wandering, my character suddenly spun and did the escape rope spinning animation. Instead of flying up, though, my character spun downward slowly, as if sinking. After that scream, the music stopped. After finally landing, the overworld sprite of Gold is colored differently now. Instead of the usual red color he dons, he appears completely white now, including his skin. It's as if he came from the colorless Game Boy games placed in a colored background of a Game Boy Color. I checked his profile and now is as white as his overworld sprite. He lost his legs and has what appears to be bloody tears from his eyes. It also says he now has 32 badges, which now starts to disturb me as this change of numbers seems to represent something important. I also checked my Pokemon, which this time contained 5 unknowns, and a level 100 Celebi without a nickname. The unknown are leveled 15, and spelled out D-Y-I-N-G, dying. I checked the Celebi's profile. It was a shiny Celebi, except there's only half the sprite. 1 leg, 1 arm, 1 eye. It only has 1 attack. Perish Song. The area I was in itself was the Sprout Tower with the immobile pillar as before, except everything is apparently red now. I walked north felt like forever. Eventually, I finally encountered some generic men and women NPCs. They were all lined up to the side, just facing the slantish pillar in the middle. They were also white, and nothing happens when I try to speak to them. I kept going north until eventually the pillar finally appears chopped off, with a transparent red in that spot. I went up to red, and without even pressing A, I was suddenly engaged and finally in a battle. The music starts again, which it sounds like the unknown radio music again, but played backwards. Gold's battle back sprite matches his front one with the bloody eyes, white skin, and lack of arms, while Red sprite was the same as much before in Gold Silver Crystal except transparent. The text simply says, "wants to battle," as if he has no name, and both of us only have 1 Pokemon each, which is weird. I swore I had 6 with the unknowns. My shiny Celebi came out, conveniently with half a sprite for the back sprite also. The shiny noise and animation was different, as the sounds it made sound like multiple screech attacks used consecutively. Red sent out a seemingly normal male Pikachu, except he's level 255, and his sprite seemed sad and had tears in his eyes. Rather than the usual fight, item, Pokemon, run menu, I was only given the option to use attacks. Since Celebi only has one, I chose it. Naturally, since Pikachu had leveled 255, he went first. Pikachu used Curse, lowering his speed and increasing his other stats. I'm not even sure if Pikachu could use Curse. Celebi used Perish Song. In 3 turns, both Pokemon get KO'd. Not like I have a choice. At this point, it didn't even go back to the fight menu, as the battle just continued without me. Also note that there were no animations at all for some reason. Pikachu used Flail, which didn't do much despite his level and boost as his health was maxed. Celebi used Perish Song. Nothing happened as it was already used. Pikachu used Frustration, which did a shit ton of damage, knocking Celebi down to less than 10 HP. Celebi used Pain Split, which surprised me as Celebi didn't even have that attack in the first place. Now Celebi and Pikachu have about 150 HP. Pikachu used Mean Look. Not like that did anything. As expected, due to the effects of Perish Song, my Celebi fainted. Except in the text it said, Celebi has died, instead of the ordinary drop off the screen animation. The Celebi back sprite just vanished. For some reason the Pikachu was still up even with Perish Song. It didn't count as my loss. Pikachu used one more different attack beyond the 4 attack limit. Pikachu used Destiny Bond. Afterwards it said, Pikachu has died. The slow fade out animation. Apparently, I was the winner, as the transparent red sprite showed up and said, At that point, I just freaked out, as the transparent red sprite was suddenly beheaded, leaving nothing but a transparent body. The battle ended at the point, and faded out along with the music. I'm back in the overworld with another change to the gold sprite. He's now as transparent as Red's overworld sprite. I quickly check Gold's profile, where this time the only thing that remains of him is his head with a transparent skin. The head was zoomed in a bit, showing a black void in his eyes. It now stated that he now has 40 badges. I then blacked out and checked my Pokemon. They were all level 20 shiny unknown, which when spelled out read N-O-M-O-R-E. No more. I was at what I now know to be next to the end. There was apparently no music playing, but for some reason I still felt like something was there that could be heard. I was back in my room in New Bark Town. Maybe finally I get to play this game properly, but who am I kidding? I knew that the sadistic fuck must have done something. I walked around my room to interact with things, as I'm a bit afraid to go down the stairs to see what awaited down there. Note I said walked, as while the background was moving, Gold was not moving its transparent limbs at all while doing so, just floating like those ghosts you see in Diamond and Pearl. As expected, the radio, computer, and TV did not work, so I had no choice but to go down the stairs. I ended up in the same lower level room of my house. Everything appears normal, except Mom isn't home. After failing to interact with anything in this room, I decided to go outside. To my surprise, that door leading outside at the south didn't work, and instead I just walked straight through it to a void. Continuing moving south, I see what the fuck was going on. My house vanishes as I head out south into the void. It was creepy as when I entered the void. The outline of Gold's transparent sprite turned white to contrast the pitch black. Eventually I reach a white area, and Gold's sprite turned black and transparent again. I continued south without thinking of stopping at all. After a long trek south, I finally encountered something. It was Gold's regular sprite. I talked to it. He said,
Goodbye. Forever.
and then he vanished. As that happened, it said, unknown used nightmare, which at that point I would not deny that being possible. Gold did another escape rope animation, spinning slowly downwards like before. I'm now back into that hollowed out room surrounded by graves earlier. Or at least, I say I was back there, as there is no sprite anymore. I tried to walk around and nothing moved. Not even wall bumping noise. I checked my trainer profile with absolutely no gold sprite left. It said I have 0 badges, and all the pictures of the Johto gym leaders at the bottom were replaced with skulls. I checked my Pokemon, which were all level 25 unknown. As expected, it spelled out a phrase I dared to read. I am D E A D. I'm dead. As soon as I went back to the overworld, the room I supposedly was in was then covered with the same blocks as the walls. I then figured out what exactly the room was when the final text was said. R.I.P. Rest in peace. That room was nothing but a big grave surrounded by other graves. Gold has already been dead. He died presumably a few years after he defeated Red. He was a young trainer who, despite his efforts in collecting so many badges and attempts to become a Pokemon master, was still unable to avoid the inevitable fate of death, and his efforts were eventually forgotten by the next generation. I was unable to escape from that text no matter what I pressed. I tried resetting the game and the same thing happened, at which I then finally decided to give up on that horrible nightmare. After that experience, I will never look at the gimmick unknown the same way again. They say that only the first generation of folk tales and legends, but what the second generation games have shown me, how unpleasant the truth can be. I eventually enjoyed Soul Silver once it came out, but I still cannot forget what that rigged game had shown me.